Human is.
How can we shape the world and our lives if we're using the wrong frame to look at the world and act in the world?
So, how should we give shape to our world, to our global world, to our communal world? And how should we shape our lives? Now, these are really, really big questions, and these are the questions that I find absolutely fascinating. And what I also find very interesting is the frame through which we look at these questions, the paradigm, our way of looking at the world, our way of acting in the world, the lenses through which we view the world and through which we view our future. What are the glasses that we're wearing when we're looking at the future and how we're going to shape that future? And the lenses that we're wearing are lenses of struggle, because throughout human history, life has been struggle. Struggle against famine, struggle against war, struggle against disease. And so this idea of struggle is deep in our genes, deep in our cultures, deep in our sense of who we are. And the sense of struggle is based on an idea of scarcity. There isn't enough to go around. There isn't enough for everybody. There aren't enough goods for the 7 billion people that live on the planet today, or the 11 billion people that will live on the planet by the end of the century. And scarcity, if you look at it as a law, as a formula, is just this idea that what you need is really big and what you have is much smaller. There is a big imbalance between what you need and what you have. Now, this feeling of scarcity, we could solve it by producing enough for everybody. Let's produce a simple car for everybody. Let's produce a simple flat. Let's give everybody 1 holiday or 2 holidays a year. That was tried in the communist system, and people weren't really happy. And the reason they weren't happy is that we've made the situation of scarcity much worse. At the start of the Industrial Revolution, but especially in the second half of the 20th century, what we've introduced is this idea that we consume. We have an incredible production system and an incredible consumption system. And we consume things not so much because we need them, but so we can impress other people. Look at my clothes. Look at my car. Look at the holidays I'm taking. Look at the places I've been. We do all this because we want to acquire status. We want to impress other people. And if you think about that, that makes the problem of scarcity much, much worse. Because now this scarcity cannot be solved by buying new things, by creating new things. The scarcity will be endless, never ending. Because there's always somebody who has more than I have, always somebody who's richer or better off or who has more exciting holidays. And so this is a very sad way of looking at the world. This is a very depressing idea that whatever we do, we're always going to get stuck in this sense of scarcity. So let's try to start from a completely different perspective. Let's start to look and ask, what is life? Life on this planet is caused or is maintained by solar radiance, by the energy that we get from the sun. The sun is a planet that has a nuclear fusion reaction, and it sends out an amazing amount of photons. Now, most of these photons get lost in the solar system, and part of these photons fall on Earth. And these photons get used by plants through photosynthesis. These photons make plants, animals eat plants, animals eat animals, we eat plants and animals. But what we're eating is, in a certain sense, a form of solar energy. Life is photons from the sun transformed through plants and animals and humans, etc. And so you could say that life is energy expending itself in time. Life is nothing but this energy flowing through time, through plants and animals and human beings. And what is remarkable about this star of ours, this sun, is that it's enormous. It has an enormous excess of solar radiance. If you calculate it, you can see that there is 10,000 times as much solar energy as we need for all of our energy needs. If you calculate it differently, you could say that the sunlight that falls on Earth in 1 hour is enough to power our energy needs for the whole year. So here you see that what you have, solar energy, is 10,000 times what you need. You have another imbalance, which is an imbalance of abundance. You have so much more than you will ever need. That is the formula. And the French thinker and philosopher Georges Bataille, who wrote about this, remarked another interesting aspect of this solar radiance. He said it's not just so enormous, but it's also a gift without return. Because it's not like the Earth, after 4 or 5 billion years, is going to get a bill. This has been your solar usage. Here's the bill, please pay up. Right? The sun is an explosion that is sending out energy, and there is no return. It's a gift. It's a radical gift. Life itself is a radical gift of energy. And so when you think about this idea of this incredible abundance, when you think of this idea of this incredible radiance, when you think of the fact that it's only a gift, when you realize that your life is also energy expending itself into time, then perhaps you don't have to worry so much about scarcity. You could think, things are abundant, there is always going to be enough energy. The feeling that whatever I need, there will be things for me. And it's a very different perspective. Now, how are we going to make that shift from scarcity to abundance? Now, we can make that shift in economics. Okay, so economics, by definition, is the study of the distribution of goods under conditions of scarcity. There you have it. Economics can't say anything about abundance. If there's something is abundant, then it basically becomes free, and you can't really have an economics of abundance. We don't know how to do that yet. And yet, interestingly enough, so many things in our life are becoming abundant. Everything that is virtual, every song, every book, every piece of content that can be copied at no cost is abundant. Also, the things that we produce, we've become so good at producing things that you can make a perfectly good watch for €1. And of course, then we have to sell a very exclusive watch for €100 or €1,000 so that we can impress other people. But the production of the watch has become almost zero. And if the robots are going to take over and going to do all the work, and if the software is going to run everything, then the production is going to become even cheaper. So you could see that there is an economics of abundance taking shape. What about the other problem that we have, the big ecological problem? You would say, yes, Karim, everything is abundant, but what about global warming? What about the destruction of species? What about the destruction of the Earth? Now, there I think that the fundamental problem in the destruction of the Earth is not a problem of scarcity. And if we try to solve this problem from a framework of scarcity, with strategies of scarcity, we're taking the wrong approach. It's not a question of producing less. Let's say we're producing too much and we're wrecking the planet. And let's minimize that. Let's do it a little bit more slowly. Then we will just destroy the planet a little bit more slowly. It's as if you're going to the end of the world, to the step, and you're going to fall off, and you're walking to your doom to fall off a cliff, but you decide, let's walk a bit more slowly to the cliff, right? You're still going to fall off at the end. The planet has managed to feed all these animals for 4 billion years without disappearing, without being destroyed out of a sense of scarcity. So through circular economy, through circular material flows, through cradle-to-cradle approaches, we can produce things differently. And we can produce things that we keep reusing and keep circling. So it's not about producing less, it's about producing differently. But perhaps the biggest change is also for our lives. Where do we think in terms of scarcity? Where do we think that life is about taking? Because if you're stuck in a paradigm, in a frame, if you're looking at the world with glasses of scarcity, you think that life is a competition. I have to use my elbows to elbow people out of the way. I have to make sure that I get enough for myself, and then there's nothing left for anybody else. Life is a competition. Life is a struggle against nature. Life is a struggle against other people. and it's a very sad way to be. But what if you see your life as a sense of abundance? You have all the things that you need. You produce an excess. All of us can produce more than we take in our lives. If we needed more to survive, then life would have stopped a long time ago. All of us are an embodiment of an excess energy. All of us can decide what to do with that excess energy. And we can spend it one way or we can spend it another way. And so imagine if your life is a shift from taking to giving, from a focus on I make sure that I get enough for myself and for my family, to how much can I give? What would that shift be? Because you have the sense that there is going to be enough for yourself. There's enough for me, and there will be enough for me in the future. I think there's a deep sense in which we haven't learned how to be rich. I know quite a few rich people, and they're still worried that somebody else has more than they have. They're still stuck in this scarcity thing. They have 3 cars and 6 houses, which is a bit strange because they can't drive 3 cars at the same time. They can't live in 6 houses at the same time. And in fact, being rich just means that you can stop somebody else from enjoying the things that you're not enjoying because you have too many of them. But what if you thought that being rich was having the sense that you have access to whatever you need? If you need transportation, there'll be transportation. If you need a place to live, there's a place to live. If you need healthcare, there's a place to have healthcare. There's the sense that I know that I'll have access now, I'll know that I'll have access in the future. That to me is a sense of being truly rich. And the idea that I'm going to make sure that I have all these little things stashed away in my flat is a deep, deep, sad sense of scarcity. It's this idea that the one who dies with the most toys wins. So imagine making that shift. Imagine having the sense that your life is not just about taking, that a deep sense of your life is what you're going to give. The American tennis legend and activist Arthur Ashe said, "From what we take, we make a living. What we give makes a life." Now, life is energy expending itself in time. My life is energy expending itself in time. Your life is energy expending itself in time. How are you going to spend your life? Thank you.